All right, so what if your high school wasn't really a school at all? What if it felt more like, say, a high security prison? Well, today we're going to break down this absolutely wild animated story from the channel Hardtoons that runs with that idea and takes it to a whole new level. This one quote really sets the stage for everything. The school isn't just like a prison. In this story, it is one. The students, they're the inmates, just serving their time. And every single part of their day is shaped by that reality. It's a pretty wild setup for all the chaos that's about to unfold. So every prison sentence kicks off with a transfer, right? For our main character, that transfer started at the crack of dawn, 5 a.m., in a van that had the very, very ironic name Magic. You know, this whole daily trip was just a masterclass in how not to do things. The driver, this guy named Bayaji, would grab our narrator first and then drop him off last. So his school commute was basically a 4-hour scenic tour of the city. And get this, the ride was so rough, tire punctures weren't just a possibility, they were practically on the schedule. And, as if that wasn't enough, the commute would often turn into this ridiculous street race with a rival auto rickshaw. I mean, just picture it. Two vehicles, both stuffed way beyond capacity with kids. The auto rickshaw was so overloaded that children would literally fall out on sharp turns, and Bayaji would have to stop and pick up the stragglers. Just pure chaos. So you've got to ask yourself, right? Why on earth would anyone willingly go through this torture every single day? Well, the answer, like it is in so many high school stories, is a girl. Or, in this case, a fellow inmate named Shamelia. Okay, this is where it gets really strategic. Our guy wasn't using those precious pre-dawn hours to, sleep. No. He was up game planning, running complex calculations to make sure that when Shamelia got on the van last, the only seat left would be the one right next to him. But here's the thing. The whole master plan depended on one golden rule of high school. You can't look too desperate. The thirst can't be obvious. So he'd get on first, save the seat next to him with his bag, and then pretend to be dead asleep. He'd only wake up the second she got there, making it all look like a happy little accident. It's all about playing it cool, you know? All right, so after somehow surviving that commute, the inmates would finally show up at the prison itself. And that's when they'd have to deal with the wardens, the teachers and staff, who were honestly even crazier than the students. The person running this whole show was known by just one name, and it was a terrifying one: Dawn. She was this legendary, formidable figure. The students even had a theory that she was, and I'm not kidding, slowly shrinking over time. Dawn's rule was law. She was apparently so short, she had to stand up while driving her car just to see over the dashboard. From the school rooftop, she'd watch over everyone like a sniper, spotting any illegal activities. And if you broke a rule, you didn't get detention, you got dispatched. And the rest of the staff? Just as weird. You had Bouchon, the sports teacher, who acted more like a customs agent searching for contraband. Then there was Chotabim, the English teacher, whose main teaching strategy was to translate English into slightly different English. And you can't forget Jagu Didi, the custodian who, rumor had it, secretly owned the entire school. Now, inside this prison system, cash was totally worthless. The real currency, the one thing that decided your power, your wealth, your whole social standing, was the pen. It's actually a pretty cool look at how any closed-off community creates its own little economy. And there was a very clear hierarchy here. At the very bottom, you had your cheap, disposable use and throws. In the middle, you had your standard Jiffy Gels. But at the top, the absolute peak of pen-related status was the legendary God-tier Reynolds Trimax. This whole pen economy was so developed, it even had its own underground gambling scene built around pen fights. Yeah, students would literally bet their pens. And a big loss could send you into a spiral of pen debt, forcing you to borrow from your friends just to try and win back your status. So, just how valuable were these things? Well, the theft of a single Trimax was treated like a federal crime. It triggered a school-wide lockdown. Bouchon, the sports teacher, launched a full-scale investigation, personally searching every single bag in the school, all for one pen. So, beyond the wardens and the underground pen market, daily life inside the prison was just a constant state of beautiful, beautiful chaos, driven by all these little, absurd acts of rebellion. A huge part of this chaos came from this weird sense of ownership the students had. My parents pay fees, so I own this place. And that led to total anarchy, especially in the bathrooms. They were just systematically stripped for parts. First, the light bulbs went missing, then the actual water taps got ripped out. It got so bad that some kids were apparently mistaking urinal cakes for breath mints. When you boil it all down, this totally insane story is hilarious because it taps into something we all kind of know is true. Every school is its own little world, right? With its own strange rules, its own legends, and its own weird social structures. It really makes you think back to your own school days, which leaves us with one final question to chew on. Who was the Don at your school?